Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Katarina. I am so excited about today's video. As you can see from the title, this is going to be my finale for my Pan palette for 2020. Pan palette for sure is my favorite project pan ever, and I can't believe it has been a year that I have been working on the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance eyeshadow palette. So today we will take a look into the progress that I was still able to make during the past month, and also because I really don't know what I want to do and I can't decide and I change my mind all the time, I want you to help me to decide what to do with this palette after this year. So I do have some options that we are going to talk about, but before that let's go through the progress I was able to make. And in fact now I want to show you the progress throughout the entire year with this palette. And this is what the palette is looking like right now. So as you can see, burnt orange is gone, so I was able to finish one more eyeshadow. I used burnt orange for 4 times and then it was gone. And yeah, really happy. That was my official goal for the last month of panning this. Another goal that I had was to use all of the shades at least once. I have used all of them, so let's go through the uses. Antique Bronze I used only once, Rose Sienna I used 4 times, Red Ochre I used once, Venetian Red I used twice, and Real Gar I used 4 times. So yeah, I used all of the shades and I was able to finish burnt orange, so I reached all of the goals that I set for myself for the last month. So yeah, really happy with that. However, I really don't know what I want to do with this palette right now. Throughout the entire year of panning this, I have actually been quite indecisive what I want to do with the palette after this year. So there has been times when I thought that I would depot this palette, but there has been also times when I felt that I just want to declutter it. And actually in the last update video I told you that I am going to declutter this, but now I am not so sure again. I don't remember exactly which update video it was, but it was an update video to some eyeshadow panning project from Linda Loves Life, and I am so inspired by her because she actually finishes eyeshadows, and I do think that's quite rare nowadays in YouTube, but it really inspires me. And even though I necessarily don't always see myself working through one palette until it's finished, in future I rather want to take a break after I have hit pan on all of the eyeshadows, but it still inspires me to see someone finishing eyeshadows, and I kind of want to try it myself with this palette, but I don't know. I want to ask your opinion what you would like to see me to do with this palette. I will probably film an intro to my next year's Pan palette on December 30th. So this is going to be a vote that is open by 10, so I really want to hear your opinion, what you want to see me doing. I do have 3 options. I'm happy with any of these 3 options, to be honest. The only option that I wouldn't be happy is to keep the palette the way it is and put it back to my collection, because this is not a complete palette anymore, and the palettes that I do have waiting in my collection to be used maybe as a palette of the month or otherwise. I rather would like them to be complete palettes, so that is not an option for me, but I do have 3 other options that I would be happy to do any of these, but I want to hear what you want to see me to do. So the option number 1 would be keep going with this palette, panning it, and try to finish it next year. So yeah, I know it's going to be pretty extreme to pan one palette straight to 2 years. That being said, I do have 2 other panned palettes for next year, and I do think these shades would go pretty well with the other 2 palettes that I do have for next year. And with the other 2 palettes, my goal is not to finish the palettes or finish any of the shades. It's mainly going to be me trying to hit pan on those eyeshadows. There are some pros and cons to all of these options, so let's go through the pros and cons to this first option. I feel I'm not quite done with this palette. I feel there is something I could still give to this palette. So, you know, I feel if I didn't continue panning this, I would kinda be giving up. And yeah, I don't quite feel I'm ready to do that yet. I could for sure finish a couple of more shades from this palette. So Antique Bronze, I'm sure I could finish. There's not that much left. And then Raw Sienna would be pretty easy eyeshadow to finish. And then I'm sure I could make really good progress with the other shades too, if I couldn't finish them. And then a couple of cons that I do have to this option. So I still don't know if I could finish the entire palette. So even if I keep going with this for another year, I'm not sure if I actually could finish Red Ochre, Venetian Red, and Real Gar. Anyways, these eyeshadows are starting to be pretty old. So even if I keep panning this for another year, and if these 3 are not gone by the end of the year, then it would be so old that I really would have to just let go of the palette. But I feel on those eyeshadows there's so much left that I don't know if it would be really realistic to finish them. They are pigmented too, so quite a little bit goes a long way. Like, I have been using Real Gar a ton during fall time, and considered how often I have used it, I don't think the progress is that good if I compare it to, you know, some other eyeshadows from this palette that I was able to use up so much quicker. So yeah, even if I keep panning this, I'm not necessarily able to finish the entire palette, but at least I know I could finish a couple of more shades from this. And then another con that I have for this first option is that I don't know if it would be a little bit boring for you to watch my progress, because the progress for sure wouldn't be that good month by month. As I said, it's not a complete palette anymore, and to be completely honest, I don't think all of these shades go together that well. Maybe I would use a couple of them in the same look, but for the most part, when I reach for this palette, I only use 1 shade on my look. So because of that, the monthly progress is just going to be slower and slower. So I don't know if that is exciting for you to watch, and that's like the biggest reason why I wanted to ask your opinion, if you would like to see me continuing to pan this. But let's move on to the second option. That would be to just let go of the palette and declutter it. As I said, it is an older palette. The formula still works great, but I think after a year it's going to be so old that it's not probably going to be the same anymore. I have heard people having irritation on their eyes when using this palette when it's old. I haven't had issues like that. The only issue that I have is that I have rust in the pans of Vermeer and Primavera. But with the reds that others have experienced irritation with, I haven't had any issues. But it is an older palette, so on the other hand, you know, I'm not mad if you don't want to see me continue panning this, because there are so many other eyeshadow palettes that I could still work on. I have a lot of palettes I haven't even tested. I will be testing them in 2021 in my Palette of the Month series, and I will be having a couple of panned palettes for next year that, as I said, I will try to hit pan on. So it's not the end of the world if, you know, I let go of this palette. I don't think in the long run I'm going to miss it that much, but I will say if I let go of this palette at this point, I will get this feeling that I didn't give it everything I have. because I know I could still make some more progress. But yeah, then the third option is try to depot the palette. I don't know how well it would go. I have heard that ABH has a plastic packaging under the cardboard or paper layer, so if that's the case, I might have some difficulties depotting this palette because these eyeshadows are so powdery. I have pretty good pan in all of them except Red Ochre, the pan is smaller, and I'm so afraid that if I would depot this palette I would break the eyeshadows. So I don't know how it would go, but the pros in this option are that I could still keep the eyeshadows and work on them on my own terms. So then I could put Antique Bronze and Raw Sienna to random projects next year where I would try to finish them. And yeah, another pro to this option is that I could have the eyeshadows from this palette as singles in my collection, but I wouldn't have an entire palette. So yeah, those are the three options that I have for this palette. I would really love to keep panning this, but I do want to know if that is something you would like to see, or do you think it's a better option for me to just let go of the palette at this point, or should I maybe try to depot the palette? But yeah, that is everything for this Palette finale. Let me know down in the comments what you think I should do with this palette. And yeah, see you in my Palette intro video for 2021. There will be a couple of more videos up still before that, but I am so excited to reveal to you what I'm going to be doing for 2021, including if this palette is part of it. That's everything for today. Thanks for watching and see you on my next video. Bye bye.